Hopefully everybody is, oh, here's one more. Everyone is doing well this evening. And really tonight, I just wanted to get into some, our first bit of content, around active reading, since you guys are gonna have your first reading assignment over the weekend. All right. I know I've talked to some of you and you said you started reading already, and that's cool, but now we're about to have our first official reading. And we're just gonna start with the first two chapters of Born to Crime. All right. And we'll take it from there. But I want us to read, this book. One where, we're reading it. I do want you to enjoy it. Of course, it is an entertaining book. Trevor Noah has his own way of adding, a bit of humor, to whatever he's talking about. Even some of the most like the tragics and the tragic situations, he finds a way to bring some levity to them. All right, but I want you to read from that perspective, but I also want you to read, from an engaged and active perspective. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So just like let me get a sense of, for the folks on this call, how many of you would you say are, are readers? Like you read something every day. All right, one, Shamitra. Okay, very good, very good, very good. All right, I think all of us read, thumbs down. I think all of us read something every day. What's something that most, if not all of us read every day?
Text message.
Yeah, okay. Text messages, maybe we're social media enthusiasts, and we spend a lot of time reading comments, posting comments and things of that nature. And anybody read the news? Oh yeah, Twitter, absolutely. Anybody read newspaper? Okay. Is that the Basheva? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Batsheva.
Basheva, okay. Is that, do you read online or do you read like a physical newspaper?
Well, I read I have a weekly subscription to so one is a newspaper, but like
Oh, nice.
And then most of it happens to be online through other days of the week.
Yeah, okay, very good, very good. Yeah, I read the Free Press online and other news outlets online, so nothing wrong with that. Honestly, I'm surprised newspapers are still hanging on, as much as things have gone digital these days. Okay, so yeah, I think most of us do some reading, every day, whether it's text messages, whether it's reading the newspaper. Anybody read just leisurely or just for fun or just for enlightenment? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right. And I think reading, even beyond being a student, reading really is one of the best habits, that you can develop, for yourself in your life. All right. There's so much to be gained from reading. All right. We'll talk about some of what reading can add, to our lives. All right. And I always tell folks, people ask me what to read, but I always say, start with what you're interested in. All right. If it's entertainment, if it's science fiction, if it's sports, if it's fashion, if it's religion or spiritual materials, self-help materials, finance, start with that, because, whenever you're reading something like that, and I think beyond text messages and, what we do on social media, because it's a different kind of engagement. Are we really, like when we read our text messages, like how much of that are we actually trying to retain, right? Is it something that we have, it's the same thing on writing a text message. Is it something that we put like our like some deep thought into? Sometimes we do, depending on the message, right? But for the most part, it's just I'll ask you like this, by percentage, right? What percentage of the text that you get, throughout the day, like what percentage of them would you say are like contain like vital information?
Less than 2.
Yeah, Less than two. Yeah, it's I know me and my friends, like me and my childhood friends, we have like a constant group chat going on. It's just, yeah, 50-50. It's me and my friends, it's just mostly memes and stupid stuff. And every now and again, somebody will text something important, but for the most part, it's just us, making jokes and whatnot. All right. So yeah, most of the things that we get, via text, maybe they don't hold as much weight, as other things that we read. All right. But again, that depends on on the text. All right. But the point I'm making is, for our academic reading, again, we're just gonna apply a different level, of engagement. All right. And my advice to you as students, right? Try to read something every day. Okay, try to read something every day. Even if it's, there's like great like readers, whatever you're into, maybe you're into nature. There's like quotes about nature. You can read one every day. Buddhism, mindfulness, other spiritual traditions, just something that, first thing in the morning, read it. All right. Okay. Now, all right, I'm about to share my screen. I need to share my sound. There we go. Okay. And I'm about to go into this week 2 module. All right. And there's a few things in here, okay, that I want you to look at. One of these things we're going to go over right now in class, but this is what I was doing the whole time. All right. There's a couple things I'm going to go over. I didn't. All right. But there's most of this, well, all of this, is about like active reading strategies. And when we say active reading, we just mean like strategies to help what you read, stick with you. All right. And then it's helping, just enhancing your understanding of what you read. And I think, for the purpose of this class, it's just important to read actively because one, we're going to write a paper, about the book that we're reading, and two, it's going to play heavily, into the next, 10, 11, 12 weeks of this class. So I have the reading broken down into like 30 to 40 page increments. So like today, there's going to be a reading assignment, the first 2 chapters, and it's about there's about 30 some odd pages, like 31, 32 pages. So it's assigned today, and then we'll have a discussion about it on Monday. So, for some of you all, that'll be like, you read it all in one sitting. And for others, that's 10 pages here, 10 pages there, and take a break. That's fine. My advice is, learn your reading strategy. Learn what's best for you. Like I said, some of you are, or will be just reading one sitting readers, but others will be, read some and then take a break. Either one of those strategies will work. Just know which one works best for you. Even though I'm going to go over some strategies tonight, there's really no one size fits all method, for this. So again, I would say just, take some of what, we're going to learn tonight, and then, just make your own strategy. Okay. Whatever works best for you. All right. So there's this 8 habits of highly successful readers. You can go over that. Here's a PDF, just kind of short and sweet. And here's a video, like how to annotate. That's really what we're going to be spending our time on tonight, annotation, because that's a like a major part of this class. All right, here's a discussion question I'll come back to. Reading question instructions, we'll talk about this Monday because we don't need it quite now. And then here's a little quiz, okay? Just like 7 or 8 questions, and they're based on these slides that we're about to look at. All right, active reading, winter 22. So I'll put the slides right underneath the quiz. All right, I don't care if you have the slides open while you're doing the quiz. All right, just don't do the quiz now. All right, and the way you do the quiz, you just click on it, and then it'll it's pretty self-explanatory after that. All right, there's some true and false, and then some multiple choice. Okay. Active reading. Before we even get into this, right? And you can answer, verbally, or you can put it in the chat. When you get a reading assignment, right? Or when you just want to do some reading, what's your environment like? Try to get somewhere quiet.
Mine is quiet.
Okay, quiet. Okay.
Yes.
Anybody
It
need
has to be.
Has to be.
Yeah,
Okay.
same here. I gotta wait till my roommate go to work because
Yes.
there has to be just
Same.
distractions,
Okay.
and not even on purpose.
Man.
It's just like you need like the solitude of just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay. Secluded. Anybody need a little background noise?
Like you mean like white noise, rain?
Yeah. Just something so it's not completely completely silent.
I like to use
No, it's usually
music.
yeah. I think that does help.
Yep. What'd you say, Angelina?
I like to use classical music, so there's
Oh, yeah.
no like to distract me.
I was gonna say music too, jazz. Yeah. I like music
Yeah.
and reading. Yeah.
And that can work. All right, that can work. But just when you're reading, it's if you're gonna listen to music, it's best to listen to music with no words. All right, so classical music, Sumitra, like you said, jazz works, even like ambient music works. Yeah, completely silent. Okay, so just different places or different places and spaces. All right, and it helps, if you have a space, in your residence that you can go to, or if you're still going to campus. Actually, Southfield campus is pretty much a ghost town now. I was there a couple of days last week. So if you want some quiet space, Southfield campus might be the spot. Yeah. All right. But yeah, I'm the same way. Like I do like a little bit of ambient noise. But it'll be like some soft music, or just something that's not going to be a distraction. And that's what happens when we listen to music with words. We're distracted by the words and the music, so it makes it difficult for us to focus, on what's in front of us. And contrary to popular belief, we get told and told and told time and again that we can multitask, meaning that we can do two things at once, but our brains are just not wired like that. All right. We think we're multitasking, but we're actually going back and forth between tasks like very rapidly. Or if we're trying to do two or three things at once, we have like fractured attention. So we're not really giving our undivided attention to one thing. So don't believe the hype, about multitasking. And when I say multitasking, I'm not talking about, like, chewing gum and walking and things like that. I'm talking about doing two things that require like some real thought. All right. And like reading actively is one of those things. Okay. So yeah, pick your space. Try to make a space, that's conducive to reading. And then also, if you have trouble focusing, that's perfectly normal, right? Perfectly normal. If you have trouble focusing, get a timer. Okay. Set it for 20 minutes and just commit to reading for that 20 minutes. And then when your timer goes off, take a break. And the catch with all that is while that timer is going, you're only reading. You're not looking at your phone. You're not even thinking about your phone. You're doing your best to ignore whatever's going on around you. Sometimes it's difficult to get into a quiet space, but for that 20 minutes, you are of singular focus on what you're doing. And it's called the Pomodoro technique, where it applies to studying as well. So if you have trouble focusing, right, 20 minutes, and then give yourself a break. Okay. And then when you feel like you're rejuvenated or you're recharged, you may take a walk or something, or you may, do something else. But when when you feel like you're recharged, do another 20 minutes. All right. And, a focused 20 minutes can do a lot for you. All right. So I think that's one of the first elements of active reading we should focus on, is focus. All right. So when you're reading your text, right, plan it. Okay. You know, on Sunday, you know, I got a couple hours in the afternoon. I'm just going to knock it out. Or, you know, I got like 30 minutes a day because of my work schedule, or my living arrangement or whatever. Just plan it and then, you know, knock it out. All right. There we go. All right. You all can see my screen, right? Because I just went full screen. Okay. I don't even want to be in a presentation mode. There we go. Okay. Now, why do we read, man? Why do our teachers make us read? Why do our parents make us read? Why does everybody want to make us read? Okay. It's Dr. Seuss, man. The more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. Okay. So very true. So very true. All right. And the reasons why we read: exposure to new things. Okay. With our book, we are going to learn what it was like to grow up in apartheid South Africa and post-apartheid South Africa, because that's, you know, Trevor Noah's childhood and just the different, you know, sometimes dangerous experiences that he had to endure growing up in this environment. All right. And he, you know, his mom and his support network, you know, helped him make the best of it. But reading exposes us to new things. So it can certainly broaden our perspective about this world that we live in. It can widen the scope, you know, through which we see the world. Right. All right. Improves our understanding. We can learn from the experiences of others, most definitely. We can relate to the experiences of others, because although Trevor Noah, you know, his story takes place in South Africa, it is very relatable. Trevor Noah was a mischievous kid and a mischievous teenager, and I'm sure many of us can relate to that. All right, just being mischievous, getting into mischief, all right, setting fires and whatnot. Okay, I didn't mean to say that last part. All right.
Yeah, you did.
I mean, yeah, you know, fire is
Because I'm a
interesting.
pyro myself.
Fire is interesting when you're a kid, man.
Yeah, like they really are. I like fire still. Like I don't go inside them, but like I just like to watch. Like I just like to be around bonfires. They're kind of cool. Like
Okay.
plus they keep me warm.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, man. Okay. Reading boosts our imagination and creativity, most definitely. And for me, what that translates into is creative problem solving. All right. Self-improvement, most definitely. Builds empathy. So important. So important. Just, you know, on a societal level, you know, we are getting to a place where we kind of lack empathy, you know, for one another, or we're kind of quick to judge, but you know, we're slower to or more reticent to understand. All right. Or empathize, you know, with the next person's experiences. So reading can help us build the empathy by, you know, we may have had a preconceived notion about somebody, but or a group of people, but after learning their story, it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. Okay, I get it now. So reading can help us reach a place of empathy. All right. Now, reading enhances our communication. How? Because it shows us how words fit together and it improves our vocabulary. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Barriers to reading. Okay, we'll bypass this one. All right. Now, okay. When we're reading actively, okay, the first thing before we do any of this, before we predict, before we visualize, before we connect, before we question, before we clarify, before we evaluate, whenever you read something, try to know a little bit about, or as much as you can, about the author. All right. You know, if you go on D2L, you'll see a module that has, you know, content about Trevor Noah. And I think that's good to like preface the book. Just knowing that little bit, knowing, you know, the book, you know, it heavily focuses on the relationship between Trevor and his mom, but you know, just knowing a little bit about that relationship before you start reading, you know, can just help you fill in some informational gaps. All right, so check out that Trevor Noah module. There's some decent material in there. All right, there's a really touching interview with you know, Trevor and Granny, right, Grandma. And I think another good thing about that interview is we see Grandma, you know, and she's of a different generation, and we see how like even you know, to this day, you know, she's still affected by her experiences, you know, going through apartheid, you know, in South Africa. All right, so as you're reading though, you're reading actively, meaning like your mind is working while you're reading. Okay, so you read something and you try to predict what happens next. Okay, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, but just that act of trying to predict, all right, you know, it keeps your mind working, or it helps you engage the material. All right, visualize, you know, try to paint a picture. All right, I think the great thing about this book is, you know, it's we know what Trevor Noah looks like. All right, so it's easy to visualize, you know, what's going on in a lot of these situations. And you know, a lot of the people in the book that are mentioned, a couple of my students, you know, in the past readings of this book, just did quick Google searches and were able to, you know, pick up, or were able to, you know, get images of, you know, most of the folks, you know, that are mentioned. All right, and then you know, they are doing a movie about this book, and Lupita Nyong'o is playing Trevor's mother, so that's how I picture her. You know, so yeah, that's how I picture her in the book. And then when I picture Trevor, because it starts off when he's a kid, like I picture like Trevor's little body, but with like his grown man face for some reason. I don't know why. All right, so try to visualize what's going on. And then I think another thing that will be helpful for this book is Google some images of South Africa. All right, Google some images of South Africa, and you'll see, you know, like disparity between wealthy and poor, and you'll see like the deep, you know, divisions, you know, in that society, whether it's by division by race or division by class. All right, make connections. In a couple slides, we'll talk about text to text, text to self, and text to world connections. But you're really like, you know, questioning, or excuse me, you're connecting this text, you know, with other texts that you've read in the past. You're connecting it with other materials that you've come in contact with, maybe other films that you've seen. So really, it's you know, you're adding this text, you know, and other things that you read to your existing body of knowledge. All right, so you know, you do want to make those comparisons, you know, with other materials that you've come across. Okay, definitely ask questions, and we'll talk more about questioning, you know, when we talk about annotation. Clarify. If you look at this clarifying image, right, Snoopy got his magnifying glass out. Investigate, identify main points, summarize. For us, and this is, you know, I'll show you some of my notes in a second, but one thing that really helps me, and my students, some of my students have communicated the same thing, is just like at the end of every chapter, or even every couple chapters, just write a short summary in the book. And when I say short, I just mean like just the broad strokes of who did what, the big ideas, because it just makes it easier to remember. All right, when you write it down with your own hand. And I mean, like, write it directly in the textbook. Find some blank space, or not the textbook, but in your copy of Born to Crime, find some blank space, and then just the broad strokes. Who did what important events happened in that chapter that you want to keep a mental record of, or actually keep a physical record of, since you're writing it in your book. All right, and then evaluate. Right, a lot of times, especially Monday, when we're discussing our book, you'll hear me saying, what'd you think about, what Patricia just did? Patricia being Trevor's mother. All right. Evaluate. Okay. Again, try to put yourself in the author's shoes, or in the people in the narrative shoes. Okay. But all of this, right? Just mental processes you're going through as you're reading. Okay. So active reading, may take more time than passive reading. Okay. Passive reading is just, you're maybe in the doctor's office or whatever, and you just pick up a magazine and you're thumbing through it, or you're just on social media. You're not really looking for anything. You're kind of just scrolling. All right. So you're reading that passively, but we're going to do the opposite of that when we read our text. We're going to engage it actively. I just have some like I'm just going to go over the passive reading strategies that we want to avoid. Okay. Active reading should take you a little bit longer than reading passive. Okay. So don't try to blow through the material. If you're new to college, take this advice. You don't get points for speed. Okay. It is very rare that you'll be rewarded for doing something fast in college. All right, in your college classes. Most of your instructors would rather you spend your time like really, engaging the material, or really, putting some thought into what you're doing, applying some focus, into what you're doing. So don't try to blow through your material. And that's why I've broken down the material into like 30 to 40 page, readings, just so you don't have to rush, because that's just maybe 10 pages a day. All right, maybe even less than that. Okay, so don't read the material too quickly. All right. I'm gonna skip over that one because that's more of a it's a different kind of reading, than we're doing right now, but I gotta stop at highlighting. How many of you guys would say that you're like avid highlighters? Just highlight stuff. Okay. Nothing wrong with highlight. Okay. But everything is wrong if you're only highlighting. I don't mean to say everything. Okay. But don't only highlight. All right. Nothing wrong with highlighting, but if you're only highlighting, then that is a passive reading strategy. Okay. So highlight, but then take notes. Okay. Take notes as well. All right. So if you highlighted something, what made you highlight that thing? Right? Write that thought out. Okay. Whatever you were thinking, whatever led you to highlight this passage. All right. Just put a note next to it. And it doesn't have to be something extensive, even though sometimes your annotations are going to be longer. But sometimes they're maybe just a word. Interesting. Important. That was messed up. Oh man. Okay. Or whatever you're thinking. That was unfair. Okay. I agree. Right. Wow. Patricia, is really thinking outside the box here. Oh man, Trevor's really a troublemaker. What you're doing all these comments that I was just making, it's like you're having a conversation with whatever you're reading. All right. And you're thinking about what you're reading, and then you're just jotting down these thoughts. So I'm going to give you some strategies for annotation, but again, like I said about active reading, it's best to come up with your own strategy, because I'm going to show you, some of my notes or my symbols, but some of them will only make sense to me because it's my own system. So try to develop a system of note taking that works for you. All right, but just make sure you're going beyond underlining, and you're going beyond only highlighting. And if you highlight, maybe use a color coding system. Maybe yellow is vocabulary words, right? Maybe pink is represents important points. All right, and blue represents something else. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine as well. All right, because I personally a pen is the only tool I use. All right. So I underline, and I just jot down notes and whatnot. And like I said, I'll show you some of them in a second if you all can see when I get out of screen share. All right, don't skip over material that you find boring. All right. Don't ignore things that you find difficult to understand. In fact, if you don't understand something, try to go back and reread it. All right. And then don't read while you're distracted. All right. If you find yourself getting distracted, take a break. Okay. Take a break, man. Go do something. Go disconnect yourself from it. And then, like I was saying before, just come back when you're recharged. Now, this is really what I wanted to get across tonight. Annotation. All right. You will hear me use this word a lot this semester. Okay. And annotation is taking notes on whatever you're reading. In your book, if we're reading an article, it's on the article. You can take notes in a notebook, but or better yet, sticky notes if you don't want to write in your book. But I do recommend that you write in your book. You aren't gonna, we do have book buyback, but you don't get anything for books like this. So write in your book, man. Write in your book. And I think I said it before, when we first started this class, if your book looks brand new at the end of the semester, something wasn't right. Okay. So annotation refers to taking notes in the margins of the material you're reading. Okay. Does anybody have experience in annotate? Have you taken a class where you've been forced to annotate before? No. Have been suggested to annotate? Okay. A couple people shaking their head. No. All right. So if you're starting from scratch, that's even better, because you just you can develop a method. You can use this class to develop a method that works for you. And annotation, it is one of those foundational skills, meaning that you're going to use it probably in every class. So again, this is like a good space to like hone that skill while you're in this class. All right. It does make you slow down when you're reading, because you're taking notes, you're jotting down your thoughts, but that's perfectly fine. All right. Sometimes it makes you go back and reread. That's fine as well. Okay. Part of active reading is rereading. All right. But it records your thoughts, as you're reading. It enhances your comprehension. Because now you can go back, through your readings. And when we get 7, 8, 9 weeks into this class or into this book, you are going to want to go back, and instead of like having to reread chapters, right, you can just look back at your notes. okay? And then maybe reread certain passages, all right? And when we're going to write an essay about this book later in the semester, and the notes you take, you know, can be really beneficial. It's the same thing with your final assessment at the end of the semester. The notes you take can really be, you know, to your benefit. All right, you can use your book, you know, for both of these exercises. So, you know, practice taking notes. And if you struggle to take notes at first, don't get discouraged. Okay, don't get discouraged. Just keep practicing, you know, until you develop a style that works for you. And you're gonna, like, some of the pages in your book are gonna be full of notes. And then some aren't gonna have notes at all, right? That's fine. When you think annotation and when you think note taking, always think quality over quantity. Okay, so don't think you have to have notes everywhere or your book has to be full of notes. But, you know, take the notes that work best for you. So if we look at this example here, there's vocabulary words, there's the student, you know, clarifying things, right? There's you know, pointing out literary tactics or literary strategies like foreshadowing. There's questions being asked. All right, so we can look at this example and say, wow, you know, this student really engaged this material, right? There's real dialogue, you know, between the student and the text, you know, going on here. Does yours have to look exactly like this? Of course not. All right, because you're going to develop your own style. And even if you look at the top, there is some highlighting, you know, on this page, but the student, you know, has made it key, right? So it's not just highlighting for the sake of highlighting, it's highlighting, you know, with a certain purpose. All right. Another thing, okay, if you look at the pink stuff, right? Words to define. Who here uses the dictionary app on their phone? Who has one? Yeah, okay. Angelina, like, maybe sometimes. Yeah. All right. Use it, man. Use it. Okay. If you don't have one, okay, the Webster's app is pretty good. You get a word of the day. You get a free thesaurus. You know, or you can go to the dollar store and get a dictionary. But when you come across a word you don't know, stop. Look it up. Okay. Jot down the definition. All right. Jot down the definition. You might even want to practice using it, you know, add it to your vocabulary. And that's what I said before, you know, a couple slides ago about how reading can enhance communication because it gives us more words, you know, to choose from. It gives us more avenues to express ourselves. All right. So if you find yourself as a writer, like if you find yourself using the same words, you know, over and over again, or even in conversations, if you find yourself, you know, using the same words over and over again, you know, try adding some new words. And the best way to build your vocabulary is through reading. All right. I always tell students, man, or really anybody, we can talk about writing, you know, for the next, you know, year, but your best writing teacher is reading. You learn new words, you learn structure, you learn how words go together, right? And then you learn stuff like, or you don't even learn it reinforces stuff that you probably already know, like there, and there, and you know, words like that, because you see it, and then you can start to, you know, pick up on these patterns. All right. So when you're doing your reading in Born a Crime, chapters 1 and 2, practice taking notes. What should I say, Professor Norwood? Whatever you're thinking. Okay. If there's words you don't know, mark them down. Okay. You know, draw attention to them in some way, whether I put stars next to the ones that I don't understand, I don't know. And yes, there are words that I don't know as a teacher. All right. So, you know, I look them up. All right. But for me, I just put like an asterisk next to it. All right, and then I look it up. All right, so if there's words you don't know, that's cool. Okay, look them up. All right, look it up. If there's a thought you have about something, jot it down. All right, if there's something in the text that reminds you of something, write it down. If you agree, disagree, if you just have a thought about something, write it down. If you think something's funny, write it down. Sad, write it down. Okay? Ironic, write it down. All right? With a little bit of explanation. Maybe you get to the end of the chapter, right? And you say, wow, Trevor really came of age, in this chapter. And you make a few additional points. Okay? That's fine. But again, just practice. Just practice. All right? Practice. I'm just skipping around a little bit. There's actually something else that
So this slide is available to us in that. Okay.
Yep,
I
it's
see.
right here. It's called
And
active reading. And then I'm about to show this little the video here. Oh yeah, link still works. All right, so this isn't one of my students, but this is an actual student, discussing their journey, with annotation and learning to annotate. Can you guys hear my sound?
Hey guys! Ever since I mentioned it in a previous video, a ton of you wanted to know how I annotate books. I am currently enrolled in AP English Literature, and for that class I have to read a ton of books, and we've already gone through 3 separate novels, so I've kind of had time to fine-tune my system and see what really works for me while I annotate. For those who don't know, annotating is just when you're reading a novel or an article or any short story or anything like that, and you're just adding in your own comments and notes in the margins of that text. It's just supposed to sort of enhance the experience as you read. If your teacher has a specific system or guidelines that they want you to follow for annotating, definitely make sure you follow those first. My English teacher doesn't really have a specific system that we should follow. She just wants us to annotate, period. Annotating is a great way to actively read, and it really helps you avoid passively staring at a novel as you read past each page, and you don't really absorb as much as you would if you did annotate, just because annotating really opens up a conversation with the text. You're able to comment, jot down all of your thoughts, ideas, keep track of themes, really anything you choose to do as you read, and it's just a better way to read, especially for a literature-heavy class. So when I first started annotating The Secret History, which was the first book I was assigned to annotate, I decided to try to use another person's system because I just really didn't know where to start at all. And I made these 2 little flip outs using scrapbook paper and washi tape just to remind myself of what I was looking for, just to get used to it. And so I decided that for the left margins, I would use those for comments, questions, arguments, and connections, and the right margins to summarize any interesting things, quotable phrases, adding like diction, syntax, figurative language, things like that. And I also wrote down any themes I wanted to keep track of as well. And for the inside cover at the front, I also decided to put in a bunch of sticky notes of like vocabulary words I wanted to look up, major plot points, when characters were introduced, and things like that. I found this system worked pretty well for me, but it was very, very detail oriented and took a lot of time to complete efficiently, and so I decided to try to simplify my system the next time I read a book. For the next book I read, which was The Kite Runner, I decided to really solidify my color coding system with my highlighters. So pink stands for literary devices or figurative language, yellow stands for plot points, green stands for character development, and blue stands for thematic ideas, motifs, and symbols. In these longer novels, I found it was really, really useful to add a little summary of the plot for each chapter, and also writing a little dialectical, just a couple sentences about certain literary devices that stuck out to me during each chapter, because I think that really helped me keep track of the development of certain themes throughout the book, and that became really, really useful for class discussions and Socratic seminars that we'd have later on. I think that annotating has really shown me how much I can get out of reading literature, because I just write down like my thoughts as I read, whether it's just like a smiley face or, you know, just a direct reaction to something that happened in the book, or even just like commenting on a certain theme or thing that I find reoccurring throughout the novel. And I found that I just got more out of the book than I would if I didn't annotate. So I would definitely recommend trying to annotate literature, even if you aren't required to do so. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube.
All right, man. You subscribe to the YouTube channel, you know, if you want. All right. I like showing that video, one, because it's from the perspective of a student, but the thing that I really like about this video is, you know, the student was saying that, you know, her first method of annotation didn't quite work the way she wanted it to. So, you know, she had to keep trying until she came up with a system, you know, that yielded the results that she wanted. So I think, you know, that may be beneficial for you all as well. You know, it could just be a system of trial and error. You know,
Professor
the
No,
first, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
She was so intense though. I don't know if I can keep up. Like, like, and I try to be detailed, but when I tell you me and her, we ain't gonna match up. That's a little too
it's fine.
I'm so sorry.
The thing about annotation, as long as it's there for you, right? So as long as you are, because I'll show you some of my notes in a second. Like I don't do any of that either. Like I don't use sticky notes or any of that. Like I said, the only thing I use is a pen. All right. So your notes are for you, even if they're written like in shorthand, you know, that you only understand. All right, that's perfectly fine. All right. So let me I don't know if you all will be able to see this, if the camera can pick up, you know, on what I'm about to show you. All right. Let me find a page where I took some good notes. All right. So no, terrible viewing. Sorry, yeah, terrible. All right. So what I can do is I guess I can just next time, well, Monday, I can show you a screenshot, or I can scan a few pages and show it. But I think don't think that you have to, like, you know, emulate, you know, what you just saw. Don't think you have to use sticky notes or any of that. Really, a pen is all you need. All right, anything else you want to bring to the table is extra. And I do recommend that you annotate in pen though. Don't use a pencil, because, you know, by the time we get to like week 12 or 13, that pencil is probably going to be like very light, and you won't be able to see, you know, what you wrote. I personally like these erasable gel pens with the fine tip. Most English teachers, we only use a certain kind of pen, just weird like that. So yeah, get a nice pen. Okay, take some notes. All right. So I'm just gonna go back into this slide, or these slides real quick. Here we go. This is what we need. There, you can use all this other stuff here, but this is really what we need. And I think this is a good place to start your first round of annotation. Make comments based on your understanding of a particular section of the reading, or some you didn't understand. That's fine too. Like if you have questions that you want to ask in class on Monday, write those down. Write those down in your book. If you didn't understand something, or like if you look at apartheid, or other aspects of South African society, and you can make a connection, with how things are in the US, those are good notes, right? You know, if Patricia reminds you of your own mother, that's good. You know, if you can relate to Trevor's experiences in some way, write that down. Okay. So when you're annotating, you know, don't think about it in terms of like right and wrong. All right. And don't think about it in terms of like, can I say this, you know, or whatever, because theoretically you're the only person that's going to see it. All right. Even when I have this class face to face, I do check, you know, notes periodically, but I really don't read your notes, my students' notes. I just make sure that my students are taking notes. But you know, your notes are up to you, right? I may not understand, you know, a connection that you made, but it makes perfect sense to you. So, you know, those are the connections that you should be making, you know, in your text. And, you know, if you really, this is, I guess the only methodology that I'm going to give you as far as like what to say. All right. There are like 3 types of connections you can make in your text. All right. So if you're struggling to take notes, you know, in your first reading, you know, maybe you can focus on making these connections. Text to self connections, text to text connections, and then text to world connections. A text to self connection would be just how the ideas in the text relate to your own experiences. And I think like for right now, your experiences, that's a good place to start, or it's a good place to draw from. All right. Because all of us have been kids at one point. So I think like in these first couple chapters, there's something we can relate to. All right. Just, you know, just the varying experiences of childhood. All right. Because I said that because Trevor's a kid in the first couple chapters. Spoiler alert. All right. All right. What I just read reminds me of the time when I blank blankety blank. I agree with or understand because blank blank. I don't agree, or this is just like my aunt. This is just like my uncle. I had a similar experience growing up. You know, I grew up poor as well. Blah 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 blah. Whatever you want to put, right, in your book. If you have a text to self connection, if the text relates to your life in some way, all right. Even if you're looking at apartheid and say, you know, I have my own experiences with discrimination in the US. That's fine. Okay. So a text to self connection is how do the experiences in the text relate to your own experiences, and then a text to text connection would be how does it relate to whatever what you know other things that you've read. Okay. Maybe a movie you saw, right? Maybe you saw a movie about South Africa. Okay. Maybe Trevor Noah said something in his act, right? Or on the Daily Show. Okay. That reminded you of whatever. All right. This passage reminds me of A Long Way Home because A Long Way Home is a book we read 1,000 years ago in one of these classes. I just never changed it. All right. Trevor is a lot like, you know, this character from this movie, this book, or whatever, because, and then flesh that out. Okay. And then I think this book has some great text to world connections because it is a story about the relationship between Trevor and his mother, but the backdrop is apartheid South Africa. And like I said, I think, you know, many of us can relate to discrimination, you know, on some level, you know, no matter whether it's our race, you know, our gender, you know, our sexual identity, our religion, our spiritual background, whatever. So text to world, it just means you're making a connection with something going on in your community, your neighborhood, your city, your state, the global, I mean, like you can make parallels between the US and South Africa. So how do the ideas in the text relate to the larger world, past, present, and future? Okay. Now, do you have to make any of these connections in your annotations? No. Okay. But are they a good place to start? You know, if you're figuring out, you know, how to begin? Yeah. Okay. But really, for this first reading, the main thing I want you all to do is practice. And don't stress out too much about annotation. Okay. Don't let it stress you out. Okay. Just do your best. Just do your best. Get your pen out. Okay. Get your pen out, you know, write your thoughts down. And again, don't, you know, value your thoughts and value your ideas. Okay. So don't think like, I don't know, don't undervalue what you think. All right. Because all of us have something to add, you know, to this discussion. Okay. So practice taking notes. Okay. Practice engaging the material. Practice, or don't, well, I guess you can practice, but, you know, figure out what strategy of reading works best for you, right? All of it at once, a little bit here, a little bit there, okay? And then, you know, just to bring us back to where we started, find your place where you can focus. Okay, find your place where you can focus. Another thing I meant to mention when we were talking about this is try not to read laying down. All right. Yeah, try not to be fully like lying down, you know, when you read. Try to be sitting up. Yeah. Try to be sitting up. It's very easy to doze off, you know, when you're when you're laying down. Yeah. Okay, be comfortable, but not too comfortable. Okay. And then have a, like I was saying before, have a pen out. Don't be afraid to write in your book. If you have a borrowed book, like from the library or something, like use sticky notes, you can still take notes. That's fine. All right. And yeah. So for Monday's class, all right. And like I was saying, all the material we covered today is in the week 2 module. All right. And then there's some stuff we didn't cover. That's in the week 2 module as well. All right. But the slides we went over are right here. And the quiz, it's right here. And it's just based on these slides. All right. Now, for Monday's class, first thing, do the reading. The reading is chapters 1 and 2. So you're going to stop reading. And I'm saying it by chapter because I don't know what version of the book you have. You know, some of the paging, some of the pagination is different. So you are going to stop reading at Trevor Pray. All right. So you're reading chapter 1 and 2. All right. And you're annotating as you're reading. And remember, you're annotating to the best of your ability, right? You're still developing, you know, a style that works for you. All right. So if it's not coming together this first time, that's perfectly fine. That's something we can talk about, you know, in Monday's class. So that's the first thing, you're reading and you're annotating. All right. And then you're taking this quiz. All right. You're taking this quiz. Okay. And the quiz, you know, at most is going to take you like 5-10 minutes. All right. Not long at all. Don't worry about how you score. If you don't score, that's if you don't score as high as you want, that's fine. All right. Just it's more important to learn the material than to you know, worry about numbers and stuff like that. And then finally,
Professor Norwood, and that's for Monday. That's all due for Monday.
Yep.
Okay.
By 6 o'clock, 6 p.m.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It'll
All
be
right.
about 5:59.
There we go. All right. And the quiz is gonna tell on you too, man, because it puts the time on. So the quiz is gonna tell on you. All right. Now, the final thing, my good people, we got our first discussion question that's based on the book. Sort of. All right, sort of. Trevor Noah describes apartheid as, quote, the most advanced system of racial oppression known to man. Apartheid was a system of institutionalized racism that imposed strict laws to maintain a racial hierarchy with whites on top and blacks on the bottom. This is actually written into the law, and we'll find out more about this as we begin reading, or you can check out the apartheid module on D2L. But in your post, discuss the following questions. Okay, how much did you know about apartheid before starting Born to Crime? If it was nothing, your response is going to be, I didn't know anything about apartheid before Born to Crime. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. All right. And then what was your initial response to reading about Noah's childhood experiences living under apartheid? And when I say what was your initial response, that doesn't mean I'm looking for any particular answer. I just want to know what you thought, of, the way he grew up, or at least what we know about the way he grew up in chapters 1 and 2. If you read beyond chapters 1 and 2, that's cool, but don't put any of that content into this discussion post. All right, and then finally, from your perspective, are there any similarities between apartheid in South Africa and racism in the US? Okay, from your point of view. Okay, I'm not asking you to
I'm sorry, can you read that last part you said?
Oh yeah. Are there any similarities between apartheid in South Africa and racism in the US? All right. And now you're gonna get just enough about apartheid in these first couple chapters. But again, if you do want to fill in some of those blanks, check out some of this material in the apartheid module. But all of these questions can be answered, just by reading chapters 1 and 2 of Born to Crime. All right. So for Monday, just to recap, I'm gonna type all this up, and like once I get this class, the recording of this class posted, and I'll just make a note, of what's due Monday again. But just to recap, read and annotate chapters 1 and 2. Take the active reading quiz and respond to this discussion post. All right. Any final questions for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Earlier, you were talking about a place that we can go find some information about Trevor that was on D2L.
Yep.
Yeah, you said
right here. Oh, I'm not screen sharing.
No.
All right. So now I'm in D2L, Sumitra, and you can just click content.
Okay.
And then check this. It's actually the second module. Just check this out. Yep. And I'm actually gonna add. I found a few other things I'm gonna get added to this module this week. All right. And then right underneath that is the apartheid module. Right. If you want to check that out. And then the week 2 module is all the material we discussed today.
Okay.
All right. Any other final thoughts? Okay. Check out this stuff about Nelson Mandela. Batseva?
I had a question about the Norton.
Yes.
Norton.
Uh-huh.
So I thus far did the free trial, but it told me that it ended. I only started it last week, and it is a 30-day trial, but it says it ends today.
Let me look into your account, and then I'll shoot you an email when I fully investigate that.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, cool. Any other thoughts, comments before we get out of here?
No, we'll email you.
Okay. So I will get this class posted tomorrow, probably tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And then I'll also make a note of what's due for Monday. So really the main thing, folks, get that reading done. Don't start off behind in the reading. All right. And then take your time and try to enjoy the book too. It's a good book. All right. So have a good week, folks, and have a great weekend.
All right, you too. See you later.
All right,
Thank
now
you so
take care.
much. See y'all later. Be safe.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, y'all too.
All right, now.